Chapter 75. Seven Blood Eyes 1. August, Summer. The scorching sun in the sky still wantonly integrated its body temperature into the wind, borrowing the flow of the wind to diffuse the heat on the ground. However, with the changes in the solar system, the heat inevitably came to an end. In the end, it could only stand in the sky and helplessly look at the ground, waiting for the swan goose to come, waiting for the black bird to return, and waiting for the next white dew to appear. However, compared to the people on the ground, the location of the sun allowed it to see this isle and that was surrounded by the endless sea more clearly. The entire Nanhuang continent was just an island. It looked like a slanted oval-shaped object, and the interior was blocked by a vast mountain range that looked like a hidden dragon that traversed the north, south, and west. This mountain range was known as the Truth Mountain Range. The western part of the mountain range occupied 70% of the entire Nanhuang continent. That was the largest forbidden zone in the Nanhuang continent, and it was known as the Phoenix Forbidden Zone. The interior was filled with a dark jungle, and ancient ruins were buried everywhere. Fog lingered all year round, and there were many mutated beasts. There were also countless bizarre creatures with extremely dense anomalous substances. As for the eastern part of the mountain range, it occupied 30% of the Nanhuang continent. This was where the humans resided. Here, there was an extremely special location. It was located in the northern part of the Truth Mountain Range, the starting point that bordered the sea. This place was connected to the Phoenix Forbidden Zone in the west, the human race's territory in the east, the Endless Sea in the north, and the Truth Mountain Range in the south that extended to the other end. This landform made it the largest port on the entire Nanhuang continent. There was an endless stream of gigantic cargo ships daily. Some came from the other islands in the surroundings, and some came from the Wainu continent. As such a special and important strategic location, it was naturally not something that ordinary forces could control. And this place was where the Seven Blood Eyes Mountain Gate was located. From afar, the city where the port was located was divided into 7 large regions. The port was only one of them. The city formed by these 7 regions was shockingly vast and could be considered a majestic city. This was the main city of the Seven Blood Eyes. Beside it were the 7 mountain peaks at the northern end of the Truth Mountain Range. Each mountain peak had a 1,000-foot-long statue of a giant eye. The color was different, but they all exuded sharpness. Regardless of day or night, the piercing light would never dissipate, forming a large array that enveloped the surroundings. These 7 giant eyes looked down at the ground like the eyes of a giant beast. They were cold and sinister, causing everyone who saw them to be shocked. This was also the origin of the Seven Blood Eyes name. The main city where the port was located, together with these 7 mountain peaks, was the entirety of the Seven Blood Eyes Mountain Gate. Among them, the 7th peak, which was close to the main city, and the 1st peak, which was far away, were the tallest. It was like 2 giants were standing there, causing the thieves and scoundrels of the Nanhuang continent and many other forces to feel trepidation. After all, in the Nanhuang continent, even the 30% of the human race's territory contained great dangers. The wilderness was filled with anomalous substances, and all kinds of mutated beasts and fugitives lurked there. Although mutated beasts weren't as ferocious as those in the Forbidden Zone, to the vast majority of humans, leaving the city and encountering them often meant a life and death crisis. This was especially so for those who were fleeing for their lives. In the wilderness, where there wasn't much order, it was probably even more tragic than death. Therefore, for the vast majority of humans, living in a city was something they could only dream of. The main city of the Seven Blood Eyes was famous in the entire Nanhuang continent. It wasn't only because of its prosperity, but also because the Seven Blood Eyes array formation could greatly isolate anomalous substances, allowing one's lifespan to greatly exceed the outside world. Hence, being able to enter the Seven Blood Eyes was the dream of too many people. Countless people yearned to come, and countless people didn't want to leave after coming. It was as though they could pursue their dreams here. However, the rules of the Seven Blood Eyes main city were extremely harsh. It was like an invisible whip that lashed onto the bodies of everyone who arrived. The name of this whip was survival of the fittest. At that moment, in the main city of the Seven Blood Eyes port, in the central area, 3 huge teleportation arrays were constantly shining. They were arranged in a triangular formation, and there was an endless stream of people coming In the third teleportation array, as the light flickered, the figure of a youth was revealed. The youth's upper body was covered in a dark-colored leather coat, and he was wearing baggy pants. The ends of his pants were tied with grass ropes, and they were covered in dry blood. His hair was very messy and his face was dirty. However, his eyes were abnormally bright like the stars. As soon as he appeared, he heard bustling noises and the sound of waves. There was also a hot and humid wind that brushed past his entire body, making him feel sticky. All of this transformed into a strong sense of unfamiliarity that surfaced in the youth's body and mind. The youth was none other than Xu Qing, who had teleported over from Antler City. Have we arrived? After Xu Qing teleported here, his head felt a little painful. At that moment, he rubbed the space between his brows and didn't stay on the array for too long. When he quickly walked out, he lifted his head and glanced at his surroundings. Everything here was orderly. A large number of black armored guards patrolled and guarded the area. Outside each teleportation array, there was a team that looked like a lawn dragon. There were both men and women in the team, and they were packed densely together. At the same time, there were carriages as well. They were all people who had teleported here. Every one of them had the desire to stay in this city visible on their faces. It was obvious that the teleportation fee wasn't low, so the desire in their expressions was even more intense. After scanning the surroundings, Xu Qing retracted his gaze and followed the crowd outside. The teleportation array here was different from Antler City. One had to go through an inspection before leaving. While Xu Qing was queuing for the inspection, he lifted his head and looked at his surroundings. From afar, he could see the pitch-black sea,